Hello everyone, and wonderful to be with you here today as we continue our discussion on really the path. What is it like to be on the path, be a spiritual seeker, and what we've been talking about over the past several times that we've met are the Four Noble Truths and Buddha's story. And we're sort of wrapping this piece up today. And really, we're going to be talking about the fourth noble truth. And if you haven't caught the previous episodes that we've been in discussion about, you can catch them over on my Facebook page, Lisa Witter. If you like my page, then you'll get notifications of these live Facebook Lives when I do them, which is on a really regular basis, so you can catch me live. Or and you can catch the replays over there on Facebook, or you can also catch these replays over on my YouTube channel, which is Lisa Ingalls. So just go to YouTube, type in Lisa Ingalls, you'll pull up my channel. If you subscribe, you'll get notified every time one of the replays is uploaded, which is quite often these days. So again, wonderful to be here with you all today, and we're just going to dive right in, and I'm going to make the assumption that you have some idea of what the first three noble truths are. If you don't, you can watch those replays, catch those replays on YouTube or on my Facebook page. But nevertheless, even if you're just diving in right now for the first time and you haven't seen any of the other episodes, it doesn't matter, because what we're going to be talking about today, you don't actually need to have that previous information in order to understand what we're going to be talking about. And the fourth noble truth, just to recap for a quick second on the noble truths, the Buddha, his very first teaching was a teaching on suffering, and he came up with the Four Noble Truths, which is what we've been talking about. And the Four Noble Truths answer the questions. Number one, what is the problem that we're dealing with? And the problem that we're dealing with is suffering, that suffering exists, and it can't not exist in our lives. Then the second question that the Noble Truths answer is, what is the root of the problem of suffering? So the root of the problem of suffering is our emotional reactions to our experiences. And our experiences, as we talked about, can be either pleasant experiences, unpleasant experiences, or neutral experiences. And the subsequent reactions to each one of those experiences, of course, is if it's a pleasant experience, we have the reaction of attraction or desire for that experience. If the experience is unpleasant, we have the reaction of aversion to it. And if the experience is neutral, we have the reaction of usually being indifferent, maybe sometimes bored, or just feeling sort of dull. So that's in general what we experience. And then the third question with the third noble truth is, well, is there a solution to this problem of suffering? And yes, it's a resounding yes, that there is a solution to the problem of suffering, Buddha said. And as we learned about last time, or as we talked about last time, we can put an end to suffering. And we made this distinction last time, which I won't go into today because you can watch the replay, but this distinction between pain and suffering. Pain is something that, no, we can't get rid of. Pain also exists in our lives, but we can get rid of suffering, because suffering is simply comes from our reactions to our experiences. So today, in the fourth noble truth, we're going to just talk about how do you put that solution into effect. What is the practice, or what are the practices that we need to do to put that solution into effect? And part of my interest in this discussion is not just about the topic of suffering, but about the topic of identity and who am I? That the answer to that question, who am I? Because as you learned about, as we discussed in, I believe it was a couple times ago, there's three experiences that cause suffering, and one of those experiences is not being able to answer the question, who am I? And what I've come to discover in my path and in the work that I've done, the work that I've done with clients, is that our true self, who you truly are, the true you, exists beneath, like how Michelangelo talked about carving out, having the statue exist already beneath all of the marble, and all that needed to be done was for the marble to be chipped away. In the same way, I believe that if we chip away at our emotional reactions, if we discover, if we identify, if we're aware and place attention on our emotional reactions, those things that we identify with as us, oftentimes we identify ourselves with our emotional reactions because they're so automatic, as we talked about last time. They're like computer programs. We react, and they're so unconscious that we identify with that reaction. And even the labels that we put on ourselves of the roles that we are, or who we think we are really just reactions to experiences that we have. So the practice, the very first practice, is not even meditation, because in Eastern philosophy, yes, we talk about meditation and the importance of meditation. In fact, all spiritual paths have some form of meditation as a practice, which is critical, and we'll talk about that at another time, because that's a very long and deep discussion on meditation. But there's some precursor things that we can do before we even get to meditation and to the practice of meditating. And the first thing is to be aware, to have attention to those times when we're having emotional reactions. And the emotional reaction I'm speaking into isn't just having emotional reactions about something that's bad that happened to us, but also as well emotional reactions where we're super excited. And to notice what we notice. It's a practice that I've had my clients do for many, many years. It's sort of one of my primary practices I give clients, is to notice what you notice as you're going through your day and situations arise and circumstances and events are coming up in your day. Notice what you notice. Be the observer of yourself and notice what your reaction is to that situation, circumstance, event, thought, or idea that you have. Because sometimes maybe you have a day where you're not even interacting with anybody. But of course, we always have thoughts going through our heads. We always have ideas coming up in our minds, and we react to our thoughts and we react to our ideas as well. But we are not those reactions. So one of the very first practices we can begin to do is to notice our reactions. Is the reaction that you're having a reaction of attraction and desire for that situation, circumstance, event, that thought, that idea? Is your reaction one of aversion? I want to get away from this situation, circumstance, event, thought, or idea? Or do you feel indifference? Maybe you feel dull or bored because a situation, circumstance, or event is just neutral. And it's just creating a reaction of indifference in you. And this is a practice that is nonstop. You can do this for your entire life. And the deeper you go into the practice, you start to unpeel these layers. And the more you begin to unpeel and look within, right, begin to notice, wow, I'm reacting to that thing in this way, we begin to get some information about ourselves and who we really are. But it's not until we begin doing that first practice of paying attention to our reactions, that we can begin to disidentify with who we are not. I'm going to say that again, that until we start doing this practice of noticing our reactions, paying attention to our reactions, we cannot begin to disidentify with who we are not, because part of the problem, part of the thing that we tend to do, most of us tend to do in life, and unless you have a very strong practice, and myself included in this, is it happens all the time, unless you are the Buddha or Jesus or someone like that, some avatar, right, who doesn't identify with their personality anymore, who doesn't identify with their ego. We will identify, and it's that unconscious identification with our reactions to situations, circumstances, events, thoughts, and ideas that give us the illusion that we're someone other than who we really are. Okay, so this is actually, it sounds quite simple, and I'm sure that some of you who are watching this, who are here, have said, oh yeah, I've heard of this before, I've done this before, this is like mindfulness. Yes, it is like mindfulness. It's a form of mindfulness. But how often do we actually do the practice of mindfulness, right? How often have we heard about these things and not really done the practice? Or how often have we heard about the practice, done the practice, or think we've done the practice, but haven't seen results? As I've talked about before, it's not about doing certain things. It's about doing things in a certain way. That's what practice is. Practice is about doing things in a certain way. If they're done mechanically, you will not see results. And most people tend to do their practices mechanically, and therefore don't really see the results and the progress that they think they should see, so they abandon the practice, when in fact, it wasn't that the practice was wrong, it was how they were doing the practice. So it really does take a lot of focus and attention. And at first it is like riding a bike. It's like learning to ride a bike, I should say. It's not easy. It's not easy to do, and it requires some dedication, some persistence, and patience with ourselves as we do our practices before we begin to even see the results. So we have to get out of this mindset of immediate gratification, because the power of practice doesn't really start to manifest itself in our lives for a while. Most people don't like to hear that, but that's the truth. There's so many things out there that will tell you, oh, immediate, you can get this immediately, right now. Well, not so much the truth. And that's why we all end up disappointed when it doesn't happen, and we keep seeking and searching outside of ourselves for the next best thing. So I'm going to just wrap up today with the invitation to you to begin to notice what you notice, to begin to be aware of, have attention around how you're reacting to situations, circumstances, events, thoughts, and ideas throughout your day. Notice what category they fall into. Do your reactions fall into attraction and desire? I'm really attracted to that thing, that idea. I'm really attracted to it. Does it fall into the category of aversion? Ooh, I don't want that thing. Yuck, I don't want it in my life. I don't like it. Get it away from me. That's not me. I don't want it. Is that how you react? Or does it fall into the category of indifference? I don't really care. This is boring. I'm bored. This is dull. All experiences will fall into one of those three categories. Notice what you notice, and then have no judgment about it. Don't be attached to your excitement about something, the desire for something. Try not to be attached to your aversion for something. Try not to be attached to your indifference. Just notice it from the perspective of the observer, and that's it. That in and of itself is hard enough to do. It's a strong practice. And then I'm going to end today with one little thing that sometimes can make your practice mechanical, but for me, when I'm learning a new practice or reintegrating a new practice in my life, it helps, which is to take my phone and put an alarm on for maybe like every 3 hours. And when that alarm goes off, to notice if I've done my practice in that period of those 3 hours or 2 hours or whatever it is. If not, that's fine, no judgment. Just do the practice right then. All that does is it's a prompt in the very beginning to practice, to do the practice, so that you don't get to the end of the day going, oh crap, I forgot the whole day. I forgot to even consider that I was reacting to anything or look at my reactions to things. So it's just a prompt in the beginning. It can turn into something mechanical, which we don't want, but I do invite you to, if you think that it's something you might forget to do, to use an alarm clock maybe for the first week of doing this practice. So we have finished our 4 Noble Truths. Again, if you're liking these discussions and wanting to be in on them, I do episodes quite often, so please do subscribe to my YouTube channel, Lisa Ingalls. Follow me, like my page, Lisa Witter Ingalls, over on Facebook. And many blessings to you in your day. Namaste.